Welcome to Build Bytes Daily. You know, we're always breaking down the tech that really matters, and today we are diving into a brand new React hook that is going to completely change how you handle forms. It's called useActionState. And trust me, if you've ever found yourself in that tangled mess of multiple useState hooks just to show a loading spinner or an error message, you're about to see a much cleaner future.
So here's the game plan for today. First, we're going to talk about the form state challenge that, let's be honest, we've all struggled with. Then, I'll introduce you to useActionState. We'll pop the hood, see how it works, and walk through a super practical example. I'll also point out a common little pitfall to watch out for, and then we'll wrap up with why this hook is so much more than a convenience. It's a glimpse into the future of React. All right, let's get into it.
All right, first things first, let's talk about the problem. Every single one of us who's written React has felt this pain. You've got a form, and you need to manage its UI state while a submission is happening. It sounds so simple, right? But keeping track of loading spinners, error pop-ups, and success messages, well, it can get messy and fast. Just take a second and think about your own code. A user clicks Submit. What happens next? You've got to disable the button, show some kind of spinner, wait for the network, and then, depending on what comes back, you either show an error or a success message. How are you juggling all those different pieces of state right now?
Yeah, if you're like most of us, your component probably has a few useState calls at the top, right? One for isLoading, another for error, maybe a third for the successful data. Your submit handler turns into this manual choreography of setting isLoading to true, wrapping your API call in a big try catch block, and then in the end, setting isLoading back to false while updating either the error state or the data state. Look, it works, but it is a ton of boilerplate code that's just begging for a bug to creep in. Well, thankfully, the React team saw our collective pain, and they've given us a purpose-built tool to fix this exact problem. So let's meet the star of today's show, useActionState.
At its very core, the official definition says it all. It's a hook designed to update state based on what happens inside a form action. To put it another way, it creates this direct, declarative link between your submission logic and the state your component needs to show feedback. No more setting state manually. The UI state becomes a direct result of what your action actually does. It's so clean.
Oh, and a quick heads up. If you're someone who follows React's Canary releases pretty closely, you might have seen this hook before under a different name, useFormState. It was renamed to useActionState, which honestly is a much better name because it reflects that this isn't just for forms. It's for any action that needs to manage a pending state.
Okay, so we know what it does conceptually, but how does it actually work? Let's break down its anatomy. We'll look at what you give it and, more importantly, what it gives you back.
When you call useActionState, you're going to pass it two main things. First up is fn. That's your async function, the one that holds all your submission logic. The second is initial state. This is just the default value for your form state before any action has happened. Now, there is an optional third argument, permalink, which is a seriously powerful feature for server components, and we'll circle back to why that's such a big deal in a bit.
Now, in return, the hook hands you back an array with three incredibly useful items. First, you get the state itself. This will automatically update with whatever your action function returns. Second, you get a new form action that you literally just pass to your form tag. This is the magic connector. And third, and this is a total game changer, you get isPending. It's a built-in Boolean loading state. That's right, no more manually flipping isLoading from true to false. The hook does it all for you.
Okay, theory is great, but let's see this thing in action. Let's get our hands dirty and walk through a classic add to cart form. This example really shows just how clean and simple our code becomes with this hook.
Okay, step one, we call the hook. Pretty simple. We pass in our submission handler, which we're calling add to cart, and we'll use null as the initial state for our message. Then we just destructure that array it returns into three clean variables: message, form action, and that beautiful isPending Boolean.
Step two is the magic connection, and it's almost laughably simple. You just take that form action variable we got from the hook and pass it directly to your form's action prop. That's it. You're done. You've now wired your form's entire state lifecycle directly to your action. And finally, step three is the payoff right inside our JSX. We can use that isPending Boolean to show a loading indicator, and the message variable will automatically display whatever our add to cart function returns, whether that's a success message or an error string. Think about it. In one single hook, we just replaced what used to be three separate useState calls and a whole bunch of manual imperative logic. So nice.
Now hold on.
Before you get all excited and run off to refactor all your forms, there is one crucial detail you have to get right. This is probably the most common pitfall with this hook, so let's make sure you don't fall into it.
Pay very close attention to the arguments of your action function. On the left, you see a normal form action just gets one argument, the form data. But, and this is key, when you use useActionState, the hook automatically injects the current state as the new first argument. Your form data gets pushed over to the second position. If you forget this, your code is going to break in confusing ways. So just burn this into your brain. With useActionState, it's always state first, then form data.
So, we've covered the what and the how. Let's finish up with the why. Why is this more than just a nice little hook that cleans up our code? Why is this a fundamental piece of the future of React development? This quote right from the React docs, this is the mic drop. This is the hook's superpower, progressive enhancement. In a modern app using React server components, this hook lets your forms be fully functional. I'm talking submitting data, showing pending states, and displaying results before a single line of your component's JavaScript has even loaded on the client. Just imagine a user on a really slow network. They can fill out and submit a form and see the result, all while the main JS bundle is still downloading in the background. It makes your app feel faster and way more resilient, which is a massive win for user experience.
And that's a wrap on useActionState. We've seen how it dramatically cleans up our form logic, gives us that pending state for free, and unlocks a way faster user experience. So the only question left for you is, which of your messy form components are you going to refactor first?
Thanks so much for joining this deep dive here on BuildBytesDaily. If this was helpful for you, do me a favor and hit that like button, and definitely subscribe for more explainers on the tech that is shaping the future of development. I'll see you in the next one.